This video contains content that viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to 100 Horrible Ways People Can Die. I'm Jon.
And I'm Alex. Today's episode is fully AI simulated, meaning our voices, our script, and all of our images are generated by the computer.
That's right. It's going to be a good time.
We've got a particularly poignant episode today, focusing on real-life events that highlight the dangers of falling trees. It's a danger that may not always be on our minds, but falling trees can be deadly in a variety of scenarios, including during storms, logging accidents, and construction work.
As we've mentioned before, logging is one of the most perilous occupations in the United States. According to OSHA, falling trees and limbs are a leading cause of death within this industry.
But it's not just those working with trees who face risks. Falling trees can also be a hazard in recreational areas like parks and forests. Visitors may not always be conscious of these dangers, making awareness and precautionary measures vital. We'll be diving into some harrowing accounts from recent history, where trees have caused fatal injuries. And we'll also share tips and insights on how to minimize these risks, whether you're on a leisurely hike, driving on the road during a storm, or working in a tree-related occupation.
And later in the episode, we'll discuss a series of tragic accidents that occurred in Oregon during an intense windstorm. It's a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of weather and how swiftly things can turn deadly.
It's an episode that will both educate and caution. Stay with us as we explore these sobering realities. So let's start by taking a closer look at how falling trees have affected lives in different scenarios. Now, listeners, we're about to delve into a series of tragic events that occurred in Oregon due to an intense windstorm. These events are both shocking and saddening, and they provide a grim reminder of the power of nature.
On a fateful Tuesday, 5 people traveling on Oregon's highways lost their lives in the span of just 4 hours, all casualties of falling trees. The windstorm was so fierce that it left 200,000 people without power.
The National Weather Service's Portland office recorded hurricane-force winds along the northern Oregon coast. Just to give you an idea, the winds were clocked at 86 miles per hour at Cape Perpetua and 74 miles per hour in Manzanita. Even the coastal range experienced tropical storm-force winds ranging from 50 to 73 miles per hour. And it was those winds that toppled a large diameter tree onto the roof of a Ford F-150 traveling east on U.S. Highway 26. 3 people inside the truck, 19-year-old Justin Nolasco Pedraza, 41-year-old Bonifacio Olvera Nolasco, and a 4-year-old girl, were found dead at the scene.
The Oregon State Police conducted an investigation, and they determined that the tree fell directly onto the vehicle's roof as it was passing by. The crash site had to be closed for 5 hours that day.
But that wasn't the only horrifying incident. Later in the day, a tree fell onto Interstate 84 near Bonneville Dam, striking an eastbound Dodge Ram. Tragically, the passenger, a 20-year-old woman named Paula Chamu Sanchez, was killed, while the driver was transported to a Portland hospital. And about 90 minutes after that, another tree fell onto a Peterbilt truck on U.S. Highway 26 in Wasco County. The driver, James Darren Lida, 53, lost control of the truck and was pronounced dead at the scene.
The aftermath of these events saw the shoulders of Highway 26 covered in a green carpet of fir branches and needles. And though we can speculate about various factors that might have contributed to these tragedies, the sheer force of the windstorm was unquestionably a primary cause.
It's a sobering reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the importance of staying informed about weather conditions, especially when traveling in areas prone to severe weather events. We'll continue to explore this topic and share tips on how to stay safe. But first, let's take a moment to reflect on the lives lost and send our thoughts to the families affected by these heartrending events. Looking to promote your product on 100 Horrible Ways People Can Die? Purchase advertisement space and we'll feature your service immortalizing it in an episode. Connect with our unique audience today.
Welcome back, listeners. As we've seen with the recent events in Oregon, falling trees can have devastating consequences on the road. But it's not just motorists who are at risk.
That's right, Alex. Those working in logging and construction, face daily risks from falling trees and limbs. These industries often require working in close proximity to trees, sometimes even directly with them, which can lead to tragic accidents. Logging, in particular, is considered one of the most dangerous occupations in the United States. According to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, falling trees and limbs are a leading cause of death in this field. It's not hard to see why when you consider the heavy machinery, unpredictable weather, and the very nature of cutting down large trees.
In 2019, for example, there were 74 fatal work injuries in the logging industry. Many of these deaths were a result of being struck by a falling tree or limb.
Construction work also poses risks. Workers who are involved in clearing land, building roads, or constructing buildings near wooded areas must be constantly vigilant. In 2017, a construction worker in California was killed when a tree that was being removed fell onto him. These accidents are often sudden and unforeseen, but there are safety guidelines that can be followed to minimize the risks. Proper training, use of appropriate protective equipment, adherence to safety protocols, and constant awareness of surroundings are crucial.
And it's not just about personal responsibility. Employers must also ensure that safety standards are met and that workers are provided with the necessary tools and training to perform their jobs safely.
One of the tragic stories that come to mind is the death of a young logger in Maine back in 2016. He was just starting his career and was struck by a falling tree limb. An investigation later revealed that he hadn't been provided with the necessary safety equipment. It's heartbreaking stories like these that remind us of the human cost of neglecting safety, but it's also a call to action for all those involved in these industries to prioritize safety and take every possible precaution.
In the next segment, we'll continue to explore other notable tree-related deaths and incidents. But for now, let's remember the importance of following guidelines, being aware of potential hazards, and never taking safety lightly.
Whether it's a seasoned logger or a weekend hiker, the danger of falling trees is real and present. Stay with us as we delve deeper into this subject and explore ways to stay safe. Get more from 100 Horrible Ways People Can Die by becoming a subscriber. Enjoy bonus content and delve deeper into each deadly scenario. Subscribe at Spotify.com at 100 Horrible Ways. Welcome back to 100 Horrible Ways People Can Die. We've been talking about the dangers of falling trees, and it's now time to look at how these hazards extend beyond work environments to everyday life.
That's right, John. Falling trees don't just pose risks to loggers or construction workers. They can be a danger in recreational areas, parks, and even our own backyards.
A prime example of this occurred in Yosemite National Park in 2015, when a falling branch killed 2 young campers as they slept in their tent. The incident was a heartbreaking reminder that even in the most serene settings, the risk of falling trees exists. There have also been cases where trees have fallen in public places, such as city streets and parks. In 2017, a woman in California was tragically killed by a falling 80-foot-tall tree while attending a wedding party in a park.
And let's not forget the historical accounts. During the Great Storm of 1987 in the UK, an estimated 15 million trees were uprooted or snapped. Sadly, 18 people lost their lives, many of them due to falling trees and related debris.
These incidents force us to confront the fact that falling trees are not just confined to specific occupations or remote areas. They can happen anywhere, and the consequences can be devastating. So how can we protect ourselves? Well, the first step is awareness. Understanding the risks and being vigilant can go a long way. If you're in a wooded area during a storm or high winds, it's best to seek shelter.
If you're camping, be sure to inspect the area for dead or leaning trees and avoid setting up your tent under them. Pay attention to weather warnings and park advisories, especially in areas known for sudden weather changes.
Homeowners should also be proactive. Regularly inspect the trees on your property, especially after storms, and consider professional evaluations if you suspect a tree might be unstable. And remember, no photo or scenic spot is worth risking your life. If something doesn't feel right, trust your instincts and move to a safer location.
Falling trees may seem like a rare or unlikely danger, but as we've seen, they have claimed many lives in various circumstances. Awareness, caution, and a respect for nature are key to staying safe.
And while we can't eliminate all risks, we can certainly take steps to minimize them and protect ourselves and those around us. Stay with us as we wrap up this episode with final thoughts and more insights on how to avoid becoming a victim of this unexpected hazard. Want to witness the horror? Follow 100 Horrible Ways People Can Die on YouTube.com. Watch our special video content and stay updated on the latest gruesome events.
We're back with a special segment of today's episode. We've been discussing the very real and often overlooked dangers of falling trees. And to delve deeper into this subject, we've invited Dr. Linda Carter, a renowned expert in tree safety and forestry.
Welcome to the show, Dr. Carter.
Thank you, Jon and Alex. It's great to be here and have the opportunity to discuss this important topic.
Dr. Carter, we've talked about tragic events involving falling trees, including a recent windstorm in Oregon. Could you shed some light on how we can recognize dangerous trees and what steps can be taken to minimize risks?
Absolutely. First and foremost, it's important to be aware of your surroundings. Dead or leaning trees, loose branches, and other visible signs of decay are red flags. If you see these indicators, it's best to keep a safe distance.
What about during windstorms like the one in Oregon?
During severe weather, the risk of falling trees and branches increases significantly. Staying indoors is the safest option. If you must be outside, avoid wooded areas and be mindful of the direction of the wind.
How can people in occupations like logging and construction better protect themselves?
Training and adherence to safety guidelines are key. Employers should ensure that workers have the proper equipment and knowledge to recognize and mitigate risks. Regular safety audits and professional evaluations of the working environment are also essential.
What about homeowners? What can they do to protect their property and loved ones?
Homeowners should have their trees inspected by a certified arborist, especially if they notice any signs of decay or instability. Pruning or removing dangerous trees is often necessary, and it's a task best left to professionals.
Dr. Carter, thank you for sharing these valuable insights. It's clear that awareness, proper assessment, and professional guidance can make a world of difference in preventing tragedies involving falling trees.
Thank you for having me. I hope that this discussion will help raise awareness and encourage people to take these risks seriously.
We couldn't agree more. Stay with us, listeners, as we continue with more practical tips, listener stories, and reflections on today's topic. Advertise with 100 Horrible Ways People Can Die and let our hosts share your product with our dedicated followers. Your message will forever be part of our show. Join us on this grim journey. Thanks for staying with us on 100 Horrible Ways People Can Die. Today's episode is all about the dangers of falling trees, and we've already covered some harrowing stories and expert insights.
Now, we want to give you some practical advice on how to stay safe, whether you're on the job or simply enjoying the great outdoors.
Let's start with those in hazardous occupations, such as logging or construction. Training and education are paramount. Workers must be aware of the risks and know how to recognize potential hazards.
Absolutely. And that includes knowing the proper use of safety equipment. Helmets, safety glasses, ear protection, and other gear can make all the difference in a dangerous situation.
For those in the logging industry, it's vital to follow the specific guidelines laid out by organizations like the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. Adhering to proper cutting techniques, maintaining safe distances, and using appropriate machinery can prevent many accidents. But it's not just those in hazardous occupations who need to be careful. Anyone who spends time outdoors, especially in wooded areas, should be mindful of their surroundings.
That's right, John. If you're hiking, camping, or even just picnicking in a park, be aware of the weather conditions and the state of the trees around you. Dead or leaning trees or branches that look ready to fall are signs to stay away.
And don't forget about storms. If there are warnings for high winds or severe weather, it's best to avoid wooded areas altogether. If you find yourself caught in a sudden storm, try to seek shelter in a sturdy building or vehicle. Homeowners also need to be vigilant. Regular inspection of the trees on your property can help you identify potential risks. If you suspect a tree might be unstable, consult a professional arborist.
These tips are all about awareness, proper precautions, and respecting nature. Whether you're working with trees or simply enjoying them, staying informed and attentive can save your life.
And let's remember, the goal is not to instill fear, but to promote awareness and responsible behavior. Trees are a beautiful and essential part of our environment, Knowing how to live and work around them safely ensures that we can continue to enjoy them without unnecessary risk. Stay with us as we hear from our listeners with their stories and questions related to today's topic. Stay connected with 100 Horrible Ways People Can Die on Twitter. Follow us at Horrible Ways for real-time updates, exclusive content, and join our community of thrill seekers.
Welcome back, listeners. We've been talking all about the dangers of falling trees, and now it's time to hear from you. We asked you to share your stories and questions related to today's topic, and we have some truly insightful responses.
Our first listener, Sarah from Maine, shared a story about a close call during a camping trip. A tree fell just yards away from her tent during a storm. Sarah, thank you for sharing, and we're glad you're okay. Sarah's experience underscores the importance of being aware of weather conditions and the state of the trees around you, something we've emphasized earlier in this episode. Always remember to check for warnings and be cautious in wooded areas during storms.
We have a question from Mark in Oregon. He asks, how can I check for potentially dangerous trees on my property without calling a professional? Great question, Mark.
That is a good question. While a professional arborist is always the best option, you can look for signs of decay, such as mushrooms growing at the base, cavities in the trunk, and dead or broken branches. If you see these signs, it's best to consult a professional. Safety is key, and it's always better to err on the side of caution. Thanks for the question, Mark.
We have one more question from Tim in Colorado. He's a construction worker and wants to know what's the best safety equipment to use when working near trees. Tim, the equipment can vary depending on the specific job and environment, but generally, hard hats, eye protection, ear protection, and proper footwear are essential. Your employer should provide training and equipment that meet industry standards.
Excellent question, Tim, and thank you to all our listeners who shared their stories and questions. Your experiences and curiosity enrich our discussion and help us all learn and grow.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Stay with us as we wrap up today's episode with some final thoughts.
Be part of 100 Horrible Ways People Can Die. Sponsor our show through ads, subscriptions, or social media. Support the grim, the tragic, and the educational. Details in our show notes. Well, folks, we've reached the end of today's episode on falling trees, and it's been an enlightening journey.
We've explored some truly harrowing real-life events, such as the tragic Oregon windstorm that claimed 5 lives, and we've delved into the inherent dangers faced by loggers and construction workers.
We've also discussed other notable incidents where trees have caused fatalities across various settings. These stories, though distressing, help us recognize the risks and importance of taking proper precautions. From expert insights to practical tips, we've covered a lot of ground today. Whether it's professional training, equipment, or simple awareness of your surroundings, safety should always be at the forefront of our minds.
And we must not forget the touching stories and questions from our listeners. Your engagement and real-world experiences add depth to our conversation and remind us that these aren't just abstract ideas, but realities that can affect any one of us.
As we wrap up, we want to reiterate our call to action. Stay safe, be vigilant, and always respect the forces of nature. Trees are a beautiful and vital part of our world, but they can also pose risks. Knowing how to navigate those risks can make all the difference. Thanks to everyone who joined us today, and a special thanks to our listeners who shared their stories and questions. Your participation truly enriches our show.
And remember, whether you're on the job, at home, or enjoying the great outdoors, your safety is paramount. Stay informed, take precautions, and always be aware of your surroundings.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next week on our next episode.
And remember,
Stay safe out there.